Welcome to this video. My name is Jaap van Duivenbode, and today I wanted to show you some of our customer and community contributions with regards to, some customized / advanced data management on your backend file server infrastructure. And many of those customers have leveraged different types of technology to present data closer to the users, leveraging data caching. They've used global file cache. They've used other technologies in the marketplace, and they've always struggled with delegating administrative control to users that allow them to move data from one location to the other without impacting the actual backend process or impacting their local replica of their data. So what some of our customers have done over the past, if they created these custom scripts in order to execute that process. And today I wanted to show you an example of this process of some of the scripts that have been shared, which I think can be really useful. Be aware and be very cautious because this is customized stuff that is PowerShell scripting built on Windows Server technology. You can do anything, but that also means that there's a lot of things that can happen behind the scenes that is unwanted, unexpected, and you definitely need to do some thorough testing with this before you implement this in your live environment. So needless to say, as part of, obviously none of this is supported, managed, maintained, developed by NetApp, Talon, or any company. This is public, community, contributed intellectual property. It's open source, so you can use anything of this. I'm just here to kind of walk you through the process and give you an example of what this could do. So the user workflow here and the ask is, how do I delegate administrative control for a user to move data from a live file share or folder structure to an archive folder, which is subsequently hosted on a lower cost storage tier or different types of policies in terms of backup, in terms of data management, in terms of permissions, read-only permissions or whatsoever. This is done through what's called a file system watcher process. So Microsoft has designed this System.io component to monitor a specific backend file server path. So, it could be on-prem, could be hybrid, could be public cloud for changes. And that change will subsequently then trigger a subset of actions that you can customize, define, or whatsoever. In this case, what we're doing is we're allowing the user to create a file that includes a specific target UNC path, i.e. a network path location, that subsequently helps to move the data in the backend from the live environment to the archive file share. This subsequently helps you to execute this task on the backend, which is your central data set, without impacting your distributed edge instances if you're using caching technology, or without impacting a lot of replication when you're using DFSR or other replication mechanisms. This is all done centrally on your authoritative data set. Now here in the demo, I have a single file share named share1 on an IP addresses, which one is 172.17.5.17. I got two folders within this share. I got an archive folder and I got a live folder. In my archive folder, there's nothing there. In my live folder, I have a bunch of test data that I put there, just as an example. And in order to execute and create this, file system watcher, this continuous monitor, we have this script. And this script has been configured to monitor a specific file share, but you can also be a little bit more granular. If you're looking at live projects, you could basically narrow down to folders, to subfolders, but this is going to monitor the entire share. What are we going to look for? We're going to look for a file that is called movethisfolder.txt. And inside that folder, or inside that file, that text file, I'm going to put in a UNC path so that this watcher process will pick it up, traverse through the UNC path, and move that to that new destination, which is going to be in the archive folder. So in essence, I'm going to create this file right here in live, which subsequently triggers this backend process to move it to the archive folder, which is now is empty. It doesn't really matter where you create this file. If you create this file directly on the backend file server, that's perfectly fine. Or if you create this file from your actual Edge instance. So if you're browsing to the same file location, in this case, localhost fast data, or from your client workstation using a DFS namespace, you can see the same corresponding namespace with the live folder and the archive folder. Both of them are the same. Let me refresh here. Just doing some maintenance. Yeah, so that should be the same anytime soon. This is basically the virtual file share and the cache representation of that data. So going back to my my license management server, because I'm running this on the license management server because it sits next to my backend storage, and that's really critical, important, because you want to make sure that this server process is directly, quote unquote, attached or connected to the backend file share of choice. This means that you get, low latency and higher IOPS for the actual monitor process. And because I'm running this on the license management server, I can also benefit from automated pre-population job creation. So I'm going to not only monitor the file and the folder structures, I'm also going to trigger a rename or actually a move process once that file is triggered. So if you look at the for each statement right here, you'll find that the text file will be browsed. You would see the actual path of the destination where the data should be moved to, and then we're going to execute this move item command. Now, I think, this is kind of rudimentary in a way. I think what's important, if you're adopting this, you definitely want to put in some dynamic checks and some validation whether the destination exists, yes or no. I've personally not tested any of the scenarios where the syntax may be wrong, or for whatever reason, there's issues with the naming conventions. Anything could happen there. You could even lose your data. So be really cautious about that. Subsequently, what we're doing is once the move has been completed, a rename of that text file happens to complete.txt. Subsequently, I'm running a pre-population job, or I'm scheduling a pre-population job, in this case in NetApp Global File Cache. And this technology allows you to kind of update the metadata for all of your corresponding edges so that the data that used to be cached in the live file share at the edge is now invalidated and is subsequently presented as cold data on the archive. It basically helps to purge the least frequently used data based on the move of the data from live to archive. That's why we are running this on the management server, or the license management server. If you want to run this from any other servers, then you cannot use this automation. You need to run this from the LMS server to be able to automate a pre-population job. Otherwise, you have to create a manual reoccurring job on a GFC core or on the policy server itself. So I'm going to show you what that looks like in essence. We're going to start this monitoring process, run the script. Now, typically customers would run this as a service on boot time, so an automated process that continuously runs on the back end. Again, I do not know, and I've not investigated, tested, or validated the impact on the back end rehydration processes or anything, so be cautious about any potential impact that this may have on the back end file server infrastructure. And I'm going to go execute on this backend movement process. I want to move what's in my live folder. I want to move that to archive. In order to simplify the demo here, I could do two things. I could create this move this folder txt file on the edge, or I could do this directly on the backend. For the sake of use, I'm just going to do this directly on the backend because it just allows me to demo it in a more subtle way. I'm creating a new text document. So now I'm a user working on the file server or on the Edge virtual file share or on the DFS namespace. I'm going to put in the actual location of the archive share, 17, and then instead of going to share 1, it's share 1, and then the archive folder. So let's make sure this UNC path is 100% correct. Live archive. You could also copy paste this stuff from this location into that location. You could also choose to embed that within your PowerShell script. But right now we have created the actual text document. But because this document is not called move this folder.txt yet, it's not doing anything. The moment that I rename this file, and there's different ways to trigger this if you'd like to customize to do so, is to rename this file to move this folder.txt. The moment I hit enter, you would see in my PowerShell output on the left-hand side of the screen that the file system watcher is triggering the actual process. Obviously, a TXT extension already existed, so I have to remove the one that I put next to it. If I change this right now, it's triggering it. So it's moving this folder and it's renaming the file to complete it. As you can see, the target path where the file or the files reside now is the archive file share. If I navigate to share one archive, guess what? That's where my data resides. So the data movement has been triggered right now to move to archive. Any additional ACLs, changes, or whatsoever you can automate as part of the PowerShell script. But this basically triggers the movement process. I'm going to do this one more time. I'm going to move the data back to my live folder. And I'm going to navigate to my edge. I'm going to refresh this. And now I'm going to trigger the same process from the actual edge location. And the only thing I need to do is I'm now going to move it in a test folder under archive. So not going to put this in the root folder of the archive, but I'm going to put it in a subfolder. I am renaming this file to move this folder.txt without the txt, obviously, because that's already there. And I'm going to hit enter. The moment I hit enter and I go back to my management server, you could see this has been picked up again. Right here at 10:20, which is right now, the folder has been moved, not to just archive, but to the test folder within archive. So now I've triggered the movement process from my actual edge instance. And if I navigate back to the edge instance and I click refresh, I can see that my file share now resides in the test folder in archive. Now this takes a minute or so to update the metadata, and also depends on your stickiness parameters within the GFC software. But as you can see, this folder exists on the backend infrastructure. So again, it may take a few minutes for it to reflect in the edge cache, but basically once you browse through this folder structure, obviously all of the changes are committed. And that concludes the high-level demo slash kind of, evaluation of this script. I think it's a good start. Is it perfect? No, definitely not. Just personally, I think there's a lot of different things that you may want to implement here. I'm going to stop the watcher for now. As you can see, there's different file triggers here, deleted, renamed, and I'm acting, or this script is acting on the rename action. If you want to kind of act upon changed and created as well, you can actually make this a function and subsequently call the function from that part of the script. But, this is a bit rudimentary, but it will help you to understand what's possible in terms of data management on the back end. Subsequently, the pre-population stuff, you can do anything you need. One thing to take care of is, and to factor in, is that the pre-pop path should be the actual pre-pop path that corresponds to the UNC path on how you're accessing your data via the edge. So in this case, it's mapping to //CVO because I'm using an alias in my configuration. Normally, this will be the IP address or the FQDN or the NetBIOS name of your backend file server, but in my specific lab setup, I've used an alias. I've chose to use this as a start time at 8 p.m., so the job. If I go to my core instance, I should now have, I think, about 2 because I ran the script twice. If I refresh my pre-pop jobs, okay, guess what? There's more of those. I see all of these jobs being automatically created to run a metadata pre-population job at 8 p.m. every night. So this is something that is automated as part of the script. Let me know what you think. provide your feedback in the comments or whatsoever. I'll be glad to work with you in order to help you understand what other options are available. So thank you for watching, and all the best. Bye-bye.